Hi everyone, Cassius here, and today I'm going to go over the build I used for my unfair playthrough as an Aeon. Before I actually get into the build, I just want to say that it is based off of a build that is used by CrpgBro, so if you want to check out his video for it, then I highly encourage you to. He has a lot of great builds and discussions for Wrath of the Righteous. Alright, let's get started then, shall we? So the first thing, stats, I went with Charisma dump down to 7, and I dumped Intelligence down to 8 to start the game off with. I got my strength up to 18, my dexterity of 13, constitution of 14, and wisdom. This was at 15, and I put 1 point into it at the end. If you'd like, you can dump wisdom even a little bit further and just use the helmets to increase your wisdom score if you want to do it that way, and bump something more into strength or constitution. But this is how I went with, so I didn't have to have the wisdom enhancing helmets. For skills, it really is entirely up to you what you want to build, depending on what your other party members are going to be. I went with athletics because of the high strength. I always try and go with perception whenever I can with any of my characters, and trickery, and then I kind of bounce between lore nature and persuasion as the game went on. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to go, and so I just kind of didn't fill out either one. For the class, Hunter Divine Hound. This allows us to get a pet at the very beginning, and also we get our judgment as the game goes on, and the judgment also affects the pet, which is a very big point. And I started off with power attack and improved initiative at the beginning, and then at level 2, I am allowed to take outflank with Divine Hound, which is the earliest you're able to get outflank. Usually you have to wait till level 5 or level 7, depending on your attack bonus. At level 3, I went with coordinated maneuvers to make sure that the dog can trip better, and also cleave for the feet. Cleave is one of those things that it becomes useless as the game goes on because you're not using it at all. So if you want to skip cleave, you can, but it's really useful at the beginning of the game when you only have one attack and you have multiple enemies to hit. So you set cleave and you hit multiple enemies if you can. If you really wanted to, you could move it over to level 1 in place of improved initiative and get improved initiative at level 3, but I prefer to get it at 3 instead and get improved initiative as early as you can, so that way you can make sure you can go as often as possible. Or you can just completely skip it altogether and start getting the other feats as you move on. At level 5 or 4, you get the judgment. Level 5, I took combat reflexes to make sure we get those attacks of opportunity, because this build is hugely designed around attacks of opportunity and getting as many as you can, so that way you're hitting often. At level 6, I went with the back-to-back teamwork feat. And also remember, all of the teamwork feats that you get here are going to benefit your animal companion as well. So that is a huge deal. The right bear hunter tactics. This will make it so your animal companion does not need to take any of these teamwork feats. So you don't have to worry about that when you're building on their levels. Also, by the time you get to here, level 7, you should probably have Everlasting Judgment, so you won't even need to worry about the number of judgments you can cast in a day. So don't worry about that as you go forward. Here I chose Weapon Proficiency Fauchard. This would because I decided to use the Fauchards in the game because they have a high crit range and they also have reach, which I thought was particularly important for this build to make sure he didn't get hit. If you would like to go with a different build, then another option would be Great Axes. So that way you can use, I forget what the name of the Great Axe is off the top of my head, but that's an 18 through 20 crit range Great Axe. It's probably the best weapon in the game, or especially for critting. If you wanted to, you could go with a sword and shield, so a scimitar and a shield, so that way you can give your pet the mounted combat feats if you wanted to give him a little more defense. So that's an option as well. But really, you want to make sure you have something with a high crit range, as high as possible, because that's what really makes this build deadly. At level 8, you get your second judgment, so you can use your attack bonus and armor class bonus, or attack bonus and damage bonus, depending on if you want to make sure both you and your pet are doing as much damage as possible, or if you want to make sure your pet gets a little AC so they can tank a little better. At level 9, I went with Blind Fight. This is another one that can go earlier if you want. This is particularly useful in defending yourself against those Namasus. So say you're having a little trouble with the fight in the beginning of the game in Canabris. If you wanted to completely cut out cleave and replace it with blind fight there, that's 100% an option. Because you can't ride your dog at this point. You won't be able to ride your dog until level 7, which is where the build starts to become particularly capable. But if you want to completely cut out cleave, then I'd say put blind fight earlier. Great defensive ability and also good for offense in terms of damage potential. At level 11, I took improved critical Fauchard, which again, if you're not taking weapon proficiency Fauchard, then you can get this earlier with whatever weapon you're going to be using because you don't need to worry about the exotic weapon proficiency. At level 13, I went with weapon focus Fauchard because we need that for shatter defenses. And for the next 2 levels, so the first 13 levels are designed for Divine Hound. So I can get to the 5th level spells, and I can keep my pet getting more powerful as the game goes on. Also, I went with Shake It Off for my other teamwork feat down here at level 9, and at level 12, I went with Seize the Moment. These are others that you can decide if you want to move them around a little bit. So say you didn't want to take coordinated maneuvers, or you weren't worried about tanking for your pet, then you can move these up sooner. To increase the saves, to increase the chance of attack opportunity. Now, 13, I took weapon focus, and then after that, I took Fighter Mutation Warrior for 3 levels for 14, 15, and 16. And I went with Dazzling Display for my bonus feat at level 14. And then at level 15, I chose Boon Companion to make sure that I could keep my dog leveling up, and also Shadow Defenses. So that way I could get Shadow Defenses level 15. The reason why this is important is because I was using Seal in my party, and he gets Shadow, or the Frightful Aspect at level 15 because he gets level 8 spells then. Which this makes it much easier to hit enemies in general, so all over the place. Definitely recommend this. And then I went 1 level more in Fighting Mutation Warrior at level 16. You get the Mutagen. And after that, I went back to Divine Hound for 3 more levels. This will be 17, 18, and 19. And I did that to get the 3rd Judgment. And also the 6th level spell. The 6th level spells aren't great for the Divine Hound, and they're not really as necessary, so I don't think it's as big of a deal to continue to get more, but it's nice to have them just in case you need to use them. At 17, I went with Destructive Dispel. This is because of the Aeon Bane. As you get more powerful with the Aeon, when you use Aeon Bane, you will automatically dispel things on the target, and you'll be dispelling a lot on the target. And so there's a very good chance that they will be stunned for 1 round because they're going to have to roll a lot of saving throws with this. Level 19, I went with Improved Blind Fight just because I didn't really need a whole lot else at this point. I'm sure there are other things I could have gone with if I really wanted to, but I went with Improved Blind Flight, and then at level 20, I went with Greater Blind Flight just to make it so anytime concealment was there, I didn't have to worry about missing. The Mythic Path, I start with Everlasting Judgment at 1st level because I really don't like the limitations on how many judgments you can use per day. Ever Ready at the 2nd level to really make those attacks of opportunity really powerful, and it is worth it. I went with Mythical Beast at level 3 to make my beast as powerful as possible, but most importantly, to make it so the beast could do damage and hit those incorporeal creatures. At level 4 with Improved Initiative Mythic. This is something you can take. You can swap Ever Ready and Improved Initiative if you want. At 5th level, I was Leading Strike. This is useful for any time you're riding a mount, because when you hit, your animal companion will do the damage, and they'll use up the mark. And so then you attack again, and then they attack, and they use up the mark. Improved Critical Fauchard, because you're going to be critting a lot, because you can have a 15 through 20 crit range. The Mythic Charge at level 7, because you are going to be charging a lot to initiate battles, and so that way you can do a lot of damage right off the bat. Very useful. This was how one of the ways I got my 1-round kill on Discari. And we got Mythic Power Attack here at level 8 to make sure we do as much damage as possible still. As you can see, I haven't quite got to Threshold yet, so I don't have Mythic rank 9 feet. I'm not sure what I'm going to take there yet, but at that point, it's kind of, okay, what would be the most beneficial to something I'm already doing tons of damage with? As for the items that I'm using, for the weapon, I'm bouncing back and forth between 3 ones. I'm not sure which one to use more. Currently, I'm on the Rushlight, which you can get in Chapter 5, late Chapter 5. It's really not the best one, other than the fact that it's a +5 weapon, so you don't have to enchant it at all. There are spells that can give you more spell resistance than this, so it's not even really that useful, but I still like using it so I don't have to worry about the enchantment. Mighty Blow of Good. This is probably the best Fauchard that you can get for a long time, just because of since you're fighting so many evil creatures, the Evil Outsider Bane is particularly handy. As for probably the best one is the Bearer of Sorrow, because you get the extra attack, and so it means your dog might get an extra attack, or anyone who has attacks opportunity might get an extra attack if you critically hit. The problem with it is that you take a lot of damage as a result of this weapon because it hurts you whenever you hit the enemy. So it's not something I can really say is always worthwhile, but if you're looking to do as much damage as possible in a single round, this is probably your go-to weapon. For the helm, I went with the Windmaster helm. Make sure I got as much initiative as possible. That's really what this build is about: going first, going early, doing lots of damage, killing enemies quickly. These I got from the Treasure Island, so the DLC. I would normally bundle these with the cloak that they got, but I wanted to give him the bonus to initiative, so he got even more initiative. This is the Bound of Possibility, because it gives everyone +2 attack rolls, saving throws, and skill checks, and also it makes it so everyone has haste. Here, Imminent Demise, just +2 competence bonus to attack and damage with 2-handed weapons. Nice to have. Bane of Spirit, I keep this one on solely for swarms. Whenever I fight swarms, I use this to make sure I can kill the swarms. Turns all my damage or damage of anyone I use it on into force damage, so that way they die. Braces a heavy hand, +3 damage with a 2-handed weapon. There's probably better ones that I can go with, but I just had these for a long time and I haven't replaced them. Amy of Combat Awareness, again, this one is from the Midnight Isles DLC, and it gives me +3 to initiative rolls and reflex saves as well, but really it's the initiative rolls. So from the gear, I'm getting +7 to my initiative rolls. The armor, I go with Chainmail of Camaraderie. You can get this in Chapter 2. And this gives a +4 bonus to damage from the outflank. So always a good thing to have. You're going to have outflank early, just do 4 more damage. So why not have it on? Wandering Conman. This makes it so you get +10 bonus to trickery and athletic skill checks, and I use both of those. But the big one is +2 bonus to attacks rolls for attacks opportunity. So higher attack bonus when you're doing attacks opportunity, and you should be doing a lot of those. Steam Mind, you get this in Chapter 5 from one of the relics that you can acquire. So you have to have Crusade mode turned on for this. The biggest thing here is the auto critical hit whenever you roll to confirm it. I go with the Stern Hand, so that way my dog can have more strength, do more damage. I usually wait until they have a high enough will before I equip this, and I'll use a different set of gloves before then, but this is the one I end with usually. And Boots of Stampede, so when I do charge, I do as much damage as possible. As for the Animal Companion for this build, I started off with Dodge, so that way they could be a little tanky in the beginning. They were my main tank for the first couple areas. And I made him into a bully, so that way he could get the trip feat. Bull Rush not as necessary, but it would help him get Bullying Thrill later on, so that's why I went with Bully. Level 3, and with Fury's Fall. Again, if you don't want to use Dodge, you can get Fury's Fall at level 1 instead and just completely skip Dodge. Level 5, I went with Weapon Focus to make sure that he could hit as often as possible. Level 7, I went with Tandem Trip, but it looks like it bugged out and he never actually got Tandem Trip. This has happened to me multiple times on different playthroughs, so it might be worth it to skip Tandem Trip. I don't know why it wouldn't work, but hey, sometimes bugs happen. At level 9, I went with Blind Fight to protect him from all those Nabasus and everything else, and also make it so he can hit more often. So if you wanted to move that up here in place of Tandem Trip, you can. And then level 11, Improved Critical. The more you crit, the more attacks of opportunity everyone gets, the better. Combat Reflex is at level 13, so that way again, more attacks of opportunity. Dazzling Display at 15 and Shadow Defense is at 17. If you remove Tandem Trip or Dodge, then you can get these as early as 13 and 15 or even earlier. And lastly, Power Attack at level 19 to maximize the amount of damage the dog does. And that will do it for this build. If you have any questions, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And until I do see you again, have a good one, y'all. Later.